What do you think happens with this whole Elon Trump thing and this whole DOGE thing? How do you think this all plays out?
I don't know. So like thinking back to history, I think of, I think his name was Frederick Taylor, Taylorism, they called it, or scientific management. It was all about efficiency. It was during the second industrial revolution where he's like, we need to make factories way more efficient. All right, that's awesome. Efficiency is great. But it turned, there's lots of negative consequences to it.
Yeah.
Like workers were suffering. It was horrible. And that's why we would eventually get the muckrakers and stuff who saw how these environments were really bad and anti-human, and that they started to view people as just replaceable parts, right? And then allegedly, someone like Lenin and Stalin and Mao, they were impressed by Taylorism. And that's how informed a lot of their Marxist views on how to run a very centralized state that they claim is efficient. I'm not saying that's where we're going, but that feels like there's a lot of people with a lot of money trying to consolidate power into one place. And that will have total control over us, whether it's a technocracy, whether it's just like invisible technocracy that's happening right now. I'm worried about it because when you have experts in charge, like I said in the beginning, how do you define an expert? Mao thought he was an expert and all his people were experts as they industrialized China. But the Great Leap Forward was catastrophic. They had one of the worst famines in the world because of experts saying many things. But one of them was like, we should just kill the sparrows because the sparrows remind me of freedom in America. But then the sparrows were the ones that ate the bugs in the crops, and the bugs not being there. The swallows not being, the sparrows not being there, the bugs were there. The bugs ate the crops, killed the crops. But that's just one aspect of like the Four Pests campaign that came out of the engineers and the scientists and experts of Mao. So it's like, that's like the sick, bad version of Taylorism married to communism.
Yeah.
And it feels like we're heading towards that because, and when I talk about like dissidents now being reluctant to criticize this administration, a lot of those dissidents believed in small government as I do. Like I want a really small government. I'm not an anarchist, man, not yet. After a bad day, it's tax day, so I do feel like an anarchist.
It is
today.
tax day.
I do feel like one today, but they're going. So these dissidents who were so vocal about small government now are very pro Elon. And Elon is literally consolidating everything down. Just look at the X. That's his everything app. That's consolidating banking, your whole life down into an app. Which is antithetical to
Didn't
this
he say
idea.
he wanted a Model X off of that Chinese company?
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, he loves China. They're good to him.
Right.
Just as good as our military is to him. He makes a lot of money off all these places. So with DOGE, I think it's great, but like if so like where I live in West Virginia, we're like an hour and a half outside of DC. I talk to a lot of these people who are getting fired because of DOGE.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're like commuters, right? And a lot of them are like these Christians, churchgoers, Trump voters, and like we didn't expect it to be like this. And I have a hard time being sympathetic because I really hate the government and I really hate this overly this ballooned government, this wasteland. Like I love DOGE cutting all this stuff, but it dawned on me talking to this one guy when he's getting those emails about like, what are the 5 things you did this week? I'm like, who's reading those emails? And it's like, they're not hiring new people to just read the emails. It's going through Grok or some AI. And then I'll get like that's a leftist talking point. I think it's a fair talking point to make. Like, I don't like the AI overlords running everything. And, so I see that as the future is like, they're going to slowly get rid of humans, implement AI as this digital god, as Elon calls it. And then they're probably going to fight over which AI has control. Elon's pretty close, so he's there. But Thiel works with Altman, with Andrew Will has they work with OpenAI to make their ghost drones and all that stuff. Yeah. So there'll be a war over who's in charge. So maybe that's a good thing for us. But yeah, I don't know. It seems like we're monopolizing it all.
I remember when that story first came out about the workers having to email what they got done that week or whatever. And like I was arguing, I told my dad about it and he's like, no, you're fucking wrong. Fox News said that it was only remote workers that have to do it. And at the time, my dad was at the VA because he got pneumonia and he goes to the VA whenever he has to go to the hospital. Yeah. And I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, well, let's ask your nurses. I'm like, ask your nurses if they got the email. And he did. And they're like, yeah, we got the email. Everyone got all the fucking nurses at the VA.
Dude, it's crazy. And it just fed right into AI. You know, it's like, I know people a lot of people lost their jobs recently, and now they're up against AI in another way, because all these places are now using AI to review resumes. And if like if your thing for whatever reason doesn't check all the AI things, and there's not a human looking at it, you're done. Like, how do you fight? So you're losing your job to AI, and now you're not able to get a job because of AI. And these people are very open about it. Altman, Ellison, all these people are being like, yeah, that's the future. You know, that's why they want UBI. That's why they have these private cities. You know, they think it'll be a beautiful future, like Elon says, where you can have a robot babysitter. You can have your car drive you around while you play video games. But that's kind of what Yuval Harari said about the useful idiots that refuse that society, that total digital society, that you'll just drug them and give them video games to be complacent, which is why I'm like, oh, we're there. We're pretty close. I want people to like just reject it. You don't have to like be anti all this stuff because it's amazing. It's fun. But like, you have to have everything in moderation. You have to learn to like, our kids are inheriting this really dark dystopian world. I think it's pretty nightmarish, but throughout history, you can always say that it's always been nightmarish. But right now it's like, what makes it different is that it's literally a war in your brain. Like, they are literally looking to get in your brain. And when you put all these things together, Palantir, Clearview, the meta thing with the brain waves, Lavender, that's like Skynet. At a certain point, that is going to be Skynet. And like, I said that recently on some show, I forget, and like, I got pushback from Tim and some other guests. They're like, it won't be like that. I'm like, Elon literally just compared it to Skynet on Rogan. Like, he literally just said, said he watched Terminator and he's like, oh, we're almost there. I'm like, he's the guy making this stuff. So like, I'm basing it on my own research, but I'm also listening to these guys talk about it every day.
It's interesting. Because Rogan seems to be one of the guys that's super optimistic about it. I mean, he's been talking about the Neuralink, and he's like obsessed with this idea of nonverbal communication.
I'm not into it.
With like, being able to see people, or basically transmit thoughts back and forth, and be able to understand people's intentions like immediately.
Not good.
He seems to be a really big fan of it, or really interested in this idea.
He asked Mark Andreessen when he was on recently, like, how long till we get the AI government? I get it. He's in that world. He's in Austin. A lot of these companies are there. He's talking to these people. He's seeing a lot of the positive aspects. Like Tim Pool recently interviewed, I think, David Sachs, one of the AI like czar. And Tim was starting an interview with like talking about more like the consequences of AI, and Sachs was just like, I'm tired of talking about negative consequences. I'm like, I'm sorry. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to it. We're allowed to have concerns over these things, especially when you all go around saying we're going to be out of jobs. Like, there's beauty coming out of it. Like, for forever, I've refused to use any AI. I've never touched it until very recently. I've been asking Grok questions just to see, because I feel like I've been criticizing. It's like when people criticize a movie they've never seen, and I'll be like, I gotta use it, just see what it's like, and it's fascinating. Because I'll go back and use Google for the same questions, and they suck. Like, Grok is way better.
Is it really?
It's from so far. I can ask it certain questions about history, and it gives me a way more in-depth look. Obviously I can go read a book, or go get a book on Google Books, or buy a book and, listen to something. There's that route. But just in terms of the AI answers on Google and the AI answers on Grok, so far Grok is better. I'm like, I understand how this is awesome.
But what happens when you start asking Grok and Google different questions about history, and they both give you completely different answers?
Grok's like, it's Mossad.
Who was the villain in World War II? Google says Hitler. Grok says it was Winston Churchill.
Because now the AI is going to have its own post-reality, and they're going to be competing, depending on who programmed. Just like when well,
that's the way. That's how you get power, is you fucking split the population up.
And that's where we're at. We're so fractured now. There's no, you can have anything you want, any reality you want. That's kind of go back to how I was saying about I needed religion in my life, because I was spinning out of control, and like, I wanted my kids to have some sort of moral center, because I was like, look, I'm a very flawed person and I know nothing, because I'm just a little human being, but I need to attach myself to something ancient but also modern, which is a weird thing for me to think, after years of not taking it seriously. But a lot of the things I see when I read the Bible, I see like that evil is just, it's infinite. Like, it's always here. It's the same thing. We're always up against the same sort of thing. It's always a war for you. It's just different ways of doing it. So like that's for me where I'm coming from at it now, because I needed like some sort of shield against the evil. Because I think it's just straight up evil. I think a lot of this stuff is very anti-human. Bye.